Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to this session entitled Understanding the Work of Norec, a part of the Nordic African Business webcast. My name is Tormod Newland, and I will be your moderator here today, where we want to do two things. We want to inspire you by telling you stories of growth and cooperation across countries and continents. And we would also like to promote one of Norway's tools for development, namely that of Norec, the Norwegian Agency for Exchange Cooperation, which is a unit under the Norwegian Ministry for Foreign Affairs tasked with supporting and financing exchanges of professionals and volunteers between Norway and 25 countries in the global south, more than half of them on the African continent. Now, these exchanges, they take place between NGOs, between businesses, and between state entities. And here today, obviously, we will be focusing on the business aspect of it by showing you how businesses can make use of Norec and its model of exchange. And the examples we will show you are of companies that have been using Norec and come a long way in the process. So today we have an interesting panel here consisting of speakers sitting in places ranging from close to the Atlantic Ocean in Norway, Oslo, the capital of Norway, Uganda, and to Kenya. So just making the round first, we have Mr. Marius Koestler and Timothy Musoke from Laboremus, Uganda. We have Mr. Olav Baarøy, Director General of Norec, and Mr. Mbithi from the WE Center in Kenya. Once our panelists have finished their speaking points, we will open up the floor for questions from the audience. But for now, I'm very much happy to be leaving the floor, or rather the web, over to Marius and Timothy. So gentlemen, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. It's always a pleasure to meet Norec again, and especially with a larger audience available. I have been asked to explain a little bit about the opportunities within the exchange that Norec facilitates. And in short, the concept is that you have two entities, be it an NGO, for-profit, non-for-profit, this can also be mixed, that have a mutual exchange of human resources between different geographical places. I think that's the very overall concept of it. And I'm very happy also to share about the challenges and maybe the roadblocks we have had along the way in the Q&A, but I would like to start on a positive note. So I will say quickly what we do or try to achieve as companies in Norway and Uganda. Then I will say a little bit about how this has benefited us from the Norwegian perspective. And then Timothy will follow up with explaining a little bit how this has helped the Ugandan organization of Laboremus Uganda to develop and prosper. But to give my input a little bit of a context, I will just explain you what we're doing. And the Laboremus group has entities in Norway, Serbia, and Uganda. And we offer solutions for the financial sector. And this ranges from, in Uganda, we have a project for the central bank, identity verification, electronic identity verification on a national infrastructure scale, to in Norway, where we deliver e-banking solution, onboarding solution, regulatory software to different types of banking clients. Some banks that you may have heard of internationally, and some small niche players that only people in Oslo would know that exist. So our production line basically consists of human beings. Also, if you look at our profit loss statement, the biggest cost we have, like by factor 5, is human capital. So obviously, this is something we are working quite hard on to optimize. And when we started out Laboremus Uganda, we started with a few resources. Now there are about 30 people working in Kampala in our offices there. There's about the equivalent people in Oslo and 15 in Serbia. But when we started out with the collaboration, we were, I think, maybe 5-6 people in Kampala, and we were maybe 15 in Oslo, and we 0 in Serbia. So there has been a growth story behind here. And when you grow, there are always so many things that you would like to learn and do. In the programming world, outsourcing is very known. It's very common. And it's also, I guess, the software development around the world. I mean, India spearheaded this back in the days together with General Electric. They were the first big users of Asia as outsourcing. The software industry has pioneered outsourcing. So this is something we also did with East Africa and Norway. However, the people that produce software are not computers, but human beings. So there's so many things that we need to learn about each other. And then the opportunity arose to apply for support to have an exchange between these two entities that are selling the same type of product, but in 2 different markets and in 2 different places, and not only selling it, but also producing it. So imagine that you have 2 very young organizations, and obviously the one of the key benefits we had was the when you trust each other. And I think that everybody it's so great to meet remotely, but to build a very solid trust, to meet, or at least have one anchor person in each organization that knows each other on a physical, personal level, that makes such a big difference. So I think that's quite obvious, and I think we've really felt the absence of that the last 6 months. We're all sort of burning on previously invested relationships, what's going on now. So Norec comes in and builds new relationships in terms of this physical presence, and this you can easily translate into business value. So that's all nice and good, but as a business manager, you are looking at the numbers, and the question now is how to help you out improving your numbers and not only make people trust each other more or maybe have a better working environment. And what we noticed is that when Norec comes in and facilitates and supports such an exchange so strongly, there are basically 2 examples that I would like to put in front of the audience from a Norwegian perspective. So for instance, one thing is that we had a resource that had been working with us in Norway for a couple of years, and she would like to change her field. Now, if you change your field of expertise from being a designer, let's say, to a project manager, obviously, if you swap directly, you will not be a very good project manager in the beginning, but you have a lot of expertise still. So should we as a company invest a lot in her to go to a course? We did that, but where does the experience come from? Now, instead of she maybe quitting or going to school, we made a program where she could learn technically about project manager, and then she went to Uganda for a year. So there, she did have a lower salary, of course, but she also learned a lot during that year, and for her it was a rewarding, and it was a way for her to advance her career. So this is a person we would have lost if it wasn't for Norec. So we used it as an internal career opportunity road. And it's also a great way to attract young talent when you can offer them that you can go on an exchange somewhere. So the investment that we had made in this person initially, we could recover and continue for so many more years. And this you will definitely see on your numbers. The other one is actually in terms of innovation. Because in an organization, there are always so many things you would like to explore and invest in. However, you can't always afford to do it. But then a couple of years ago, there's a field within technology called DevOps, which is about how you manage servers in the cloud and so forth. And it's been progressing very rapidly. But we were so lucky to get some talent from Uganda, a brilliant person, to come to Norway to work on this topic alone for a year. And this is an investment we wouldn't have been able to do without Norec, because it was a bit too far out. But together with Norec, we were not only able to develop great talent that went back to Uganda, but we were also able to develop our organization in Norway with an extra resource. But I think I will hand over to Timothy, who can say a little bit about how Laboremus Uganda has went from like 5, 6, 7 people when Norec started to where it is today, and what difference Norec has made. Thank you. You're on mute, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Marius, for that. Yeah, so let me give a little bit of the Ugandan angle to this. I think to also put a bit of context, we are in a part of the world where technology is starting to proliferate into the way businesses do things. Being a new field, one would say it's hard to find talent that you are going to use to build up the systems that Marius has been talking about. So as a small company in Uganda, of course, when we started, we had all these ambitions of going to the university and recruiting all these university graduates, except we realized quickly that much more experience in order for us to be able to put them to use. So our first Norec, of course, through the company Norway, allowed us to get access to talent that would normally not be available here because the industry is still young. But secondly, we would not be able to afford them because they are quite experienced, right? So as a small company, getting high-powered talent that normally would be expensive for us, it helps us actually get off the ground. And that's the role that Norec helps facilitate for us to have that north to south kind of exchange. The second thing is, in this part, of course, it helps to get your people exposed to a global perspective in the sense of career development and how things are done. And I'm saying this from the sense of, if someone has already perfected or is in a much better place in the way they do certain things, let's say project management or delivery of solutions to a customer or customer service, it's best to learn from those people. So we had an opportunity to get our own people here, to move them to Norway and work in an environment which I would say more developed than here. And the result is one person staying in Norway, coming back in Uganda. Our experience is these people are almost completely transformed from a personal development perspective, just the way they are confident to take on the world, because they're saying, if I can do it in Europe, I can do it anywhere. But even here, if they didn't have to leave for them to be able to do that, but just because they managed to do it, managed to do it in Europe, gives them this extra confidence or unlocks it. It was always there, but it wasn't unlocked. So those are some of the advantages that we were able to experience. Just to give you some specific examples, in terms of, I talked about specific roles that we're not able to access to. Project management is a big problem in terms of finding people here, and just because the industry just didn't exist. Digital marketing consultants, these are roles that you don't usually find here. Giving ourselves, Norec allowing us to access pretty much the whole of Europe, and lately Canada, let's say North America, basically gives you access to almost the entire world in access of a talent pool. This is something that would be a dream for any founder. But I can also talk a little bit about the challenges, because it's not all rosy. So you have someone, who has, they were struggling to get into their profession, but you think there's something in there, so you hire them. And then you give them an opportunity to go and, apply their talents in another part of the world. And then all this potential. And then after 1 year, they're already back. So the immediate challenge we found is you have this emboldened new person. And of course, their demands in terms of salary, in terms of benefits and all that are going to go high, because of course, they're going to demand more. Our organization needs to be growing quite a fast pace as well to keep up with this person, the expectation in terms of work that we give them, but as well as the benefits that they are expecting. Luckily, Norec has this. They have these arrangements where they prepare these individuals when they come back to your country and try to help you reintegrate and manage these expectations. But that is one of the challenges that we faced. The other one is, of course, the attraction for talent. People here saying, "Oh, you mean I'll get a chance to work in Europe?" That made it a big magnet for talent. But on the other hand, the downside to that is when a new organization, maybe from the US or from Europe or from Asia, wants to set up in Uganda, guess what? They're asking, so where can I find people that are exposed, people that are global? And we became a target for tech companies. For those of you who know Andela, a big startup supported by Facebook, and a few other big players in Silicon Valley. When they came here, of course, their first stop was Laboremus, because that's where you find well-trained, globally exposed people. And if we're not able to meet the bills that they are willing to pay, hey. So that's I guess one could say, a rich man's problem. But yes, that's one of the challenges that.
Great, Timothy, thank you so much. Just moving on, asking, what you're talking about now is physical exchanges of staff. But in our time of day now, during the time of pandemic and COVID, that's not possible. So, Marius, how are you dealing with the current situation?
Well, first of all, I would like to challenge Norec, of course, to continue to push for a physical exchange. I believe it is possible, however, in a lesser, smaller degree. But any exchange is an exchange, even the one we are having right now remotely. And the tools, 5 years ago, this would not have been possible to continue what I believe Norec now can and should continue by actually facilitating remote work exchange that normally wouldn't happen. However, with a greater insert of social support throughout and helping organizations on each side, maybe starting to work remotely for each other, but supporting them in the process of setting this up. As a software company, we are used to this. This is what we do every day. In our meeting, we have people from Uganda, Serbia, wherever, Northern America. That's how software companies work these days. But to take that model into other types of work as well, it may work out very well, I believe. And then the other thing is that a couple of years ago, we're able to control both organizations, like to some extent, that we're partnering. And that's a bit of a luxury that not everybody has. So when somebody came to Norway or went to Uganda, they were already familiar with the other types of people's activities and knowledge. So that was quite a key to our success, but I think you can emulate that, Because if you look at the platforms like Udacity and so forward, they're so good e-learning tools. And now because of the proliferation of the internet, this is also accessible for more or less everyone. Okay, you have to pay $1,000 for like a high-end course, but that's also the best course you can find in the world for $1,000. That's nothing, right? So in order to make that remote work rolling, when I need some extra help in the finance department, pay $1,000 4 months before the exchange starts and mentor that person a little bit. I think really you can make a very inspiring and resourceful exchange program, which is maybe 90% remote.
Thank you very much. Inspiring thoughts from you, Marius. Thank you. And then moving on to our next story, our next example. We're going to Kenya. We're going to you, Bonnie Mbithi, from the Waste Electrical and Electronic Equipment Center with the WE Center in Nairobi. So, Bonnie, the floor is yours for 10 minutes, please.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm Bonnie Mbithi, CEO for the WE Center. So I come from a very different sector, which is a bit new to most people. So we do electronic waste management. So our work is in recycling old IT devices. We realized that nobody was paying attention to that, especially in Africa. Everyone was concentrating on the IT distribution part of it, but nobody was providing a safe resting place for the electronics or for the IT devices when they reach end of life. So we've been running the WE Center, ensuring that not only for business, but also ensuring that the environment is safe from e-waste, because of course e-waste is made of very harmful and heavy metals. So we came across, so 4 years ago I didn't know about Norec. How we discovered Norec, I don't know whether it was accidentally or it was meant to be, but I just received an email from Norec one day in December, and they said, okay, well, we're interested in the kind of business you guys do, and would want to see if we can partner in this. Well, before then, we were also receiving participants from US and also Canada, from other almost similar programs, American Peace Corps, and it was a different model. So when Norec came up, and it was more of a reciprocity, where we send participants and they also send participants from the north, we found that to be very interesting, because with the other programs, especially when you receive participants from North America, it is totally different. You don't even get an opportunity to look at what talent you'll be receiving. For Norec, I can tell you, even before recruitment of the participants, we engage with the partner. Yeah, we do sort of checks to see what kind of participant they'll be sending to us, so that we assure we are getting the right people. So once we started once now Norec got in touch, I had to look for a partner who was interested in doing the same business that we do. And funny enough, it was difficult to get because e-waste management and recycling is a new sector. Yeah. So what I did was just to check around, and one of the countries that I had a lot of interest was Madagascar, because I realized Madagascar is an island, and I assumed that definitely they didn't have proper ways of managing electronic waste, and I knew it would be challenging, and even setting up the WE Center was very challenging. So I was looking also for a more difficult challenge or similar. So I met our partner in Madagascar, who were doing waste management, but not e-waste management. So for us now, we had to now introduce the aspect of e-waste management. And we had discussion with Norec and put across our first application, which they agreed to even fund the feasibility, which is also very interesting. Yeah, going for the feasibility study is very much needed. That's something most projects don't look at, because if you go for the feasibility, you get to interact firsthand with the partner. You also create that emotional and even that trust, you know. And when we went for the feasibility, you also discover other things that you would not discover on exchanging emails or just talking online. So when I went there, I realized that it was a big problem. You would go to the markets in Antana and you find very old electronics just being sold by young people. And you find in most cases, electronic waste trade, mostly it is done by the young people, and they're exposed to the toxins that are in the e-waste and they do not know. So when we did the feasibility, I knew this would be like an incubation. And
Sorry, Bonnie, you are breaking up, I think, a bit. I think maybe, Bonnie, if you switch off your camera and just have the sound so you can tell your story, that is what we want.
Where they were a few years back, they have managed to improve in terms of e-waste management from the participants sending them a couple of years now. All right.
Now it's good. Now it's good.
Maybe my internet is a bit slow. Yes, so with that exchange, we've managed to not only improve in terms of operation, but we've also discovered that we can even expand to not only operate in Kenya, but also in other African countries. And from that exchange, we've already started establishing We Center in 15 countries in Africa, where we are also in discussion with Norec to see where they have presence in those countries. And we apply for similar exchange to also build the capacity of partner organizations in those countries. And that has been working very well. Most of the partners that we've established now, we've been incubating them as We Center. But now we want to bring in Norec to see how now we can have physical exchange with those partners. For now, because the kind of business we do is very technical, it's very difficult for us to work remotely, because you have to train people on how to dismantle the electronic waste. You have to take them through health and safety precautions. So once we kickstart that, it will be very easy for us now to train them. And even apart from that aspect, the other aspect that I found very important during the tenure that we've been on exchange with Norec is the partnerships that we've also been able to create, not only within Norec, but also outside Norec. Because with the networking events that Norec organizes for, you get other partners. Yeah, because and everywhere I go, people love e-waste management. They say, okay, we also want now to start a We Center in our country. Can you come and start as off? You know, so you find we've also, even the 15 countries that we've managed to establish, some of them are people who we met that were managing Norec programs. But you tell them, okay, if you guys are doing ICT, there's a very thin line between, and even Timothy, I think we can start this discussion. There's a very thin line between people who are doing the ICT and technology with electronic waste management. So you just interest them and you start exchanging resources, and you find you're able now to have a proper company that is able to manage electronic waste. And also with the participants that have managed to come on exchange, we take them through very detailed kind of training, such that if we send them back to their mother countries, it's very easy for them to build the capacities of others, and they also become our resources. So even if they go back, like the ones that have gone back to Madagascar, we still sort of manage them from We Center Kenya, because they are our resources. like the ones who came last year in 2018, the WE Center was undergoing ISO certification. We are ISO 9001 of 2015 certified and 14001 certified. We were undergoing those audits. So that team was very lucky because they took part when we were in the deep sea, doing the audit and doing the documentation, and ISO is very detailed. And the team, when now they went back, I can tell you that that team, they are our best resources because they understand all issues of safety, all issues of health,
Bonnie,
and even
you're
the
almost out
operations
of
bit of
time.
it.
If you could
So
just
you find your,
briefly say one thing, how many customers
building that
do you have
capacity for the
now,
other
and
partner
say the
becomes
name
very
of some
easy.
of the customers you are involved, your company is involved in.
All right. So we center, currently we are serving over 8,000 customers across Africa. Most of them are multinationals. People like IBM, Philips, Roche. We are signing a contract with Apple. We manage electronic waste for most of the embassies. We've still not yet managed for Norwegian embassy, but I think that's a discussion we'll have. Because it's high time. We've managed Germany embassy, Canadian, we are managing a couple of embassies. For Norwegian, we've only managed Norwegian Refugee Council. We've managed the e-waste. We also have another stream of partners who are global recyclers all over the world. So we've signed partnership agreements with people like Arrow. Arrow is one of the 500 top Fortune companies in the world. So we manage the African business. So if they have customers who they have signed contracts with in Africa, instead of them sending people from US, we manage the African market. Chess I think is in Europe. Chess, we've recently also signed a contract with them. We'll also be managing the African clientele. So, and the partners, or rather the participants who come on exchange, we also throw them into that deep end to know how to create partnerships so that when they go back to Madagascar, for example, if we set up, we start with the existing customers. If it is Total, for example, who are our good customers, if they have e-waste in Madagascar, they will still engage with Center and it is managed in Madagascar. So that's the kind of business, and we're approaching it even across Africa.
Wonderful.
So for all
Thank
the
you
African
so much,
countries,
Bonnie. Great.
it will be very easy for us to
story.
expand because we already have
we now have to
the
move
network
on,
of
and
the leading companies.
that is returning back to Norway and to the Director General of Norec, Mr. Jan Olav Baarøy. Jan Olav, please.
Thank you, Tormod. Marius and Bonnie, thank you very much for your inspiring inputs. It's been really good listening to you. And to all you listeners out there, thank you for following, and hope you stay put the next few minutes, where I'll give you a brief background to Norec and what we are looking for when supporting international partnership. So in brief, what I'll talk about in the next few minutes is 1, who we are, 2, our methodology, and 3, our purpose. 1, who we are. Norec is, as Tormod mentioned in the beginning, an integrated entity in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Since 1963, when the Parliament in Norway decided to establish this organization. So in other words, we are a governmental agency commissioned to implement the politics from our government. And Norec is by then a part of the official development assistance. And the Parliament has decided to give a portion of that development assistance to international partnership, such as Laboremus, such as we, and in particular, a part of that to ideas, knowledge, experience, and know-how for the benefit of the partnership. All this is carried out by the support of Norec. So in short, Norec is a governmental body in the Ministry of Affairs, providing technical and financial support to international partnerships. We are a relatively small office with 40 staff based in Førde on the west coast of Norway. This is briefly we formally are. My second point is our methodology, and this will be a snapshot, and do see our website for more information, but it follows. To this day, In other words, to March this year, the exchange of personnel as presented by Timothy, Marius, and Bonnie has been the methodology of Norec. The methodology follows: 2 or more parties, businesses, organizations in 2 or more countries, they decide to exchange staff for the benefit of the partnership, and obviously for the benefit of volunteers on exchange. Back to that one. Exchange of their own staff or your own staff can in many ways actually replaces the use of consultants for the provision of new insights into the companies. Your partner company in a different country might have experience in a field you're looking for. Marius came into this one when he had an experienced staff who would like to change his field. And when Norec comes, you apply it to Norec, cover the exchange of personnel from your company to your partner company in a different country. Are you looking for new insights in, for example, marketing, human resources, finance, brand? Perhaps the best and the solution comes from your partner in a different country instead of consultancy companies. Perhaps you have gone through what you are embarking on and have useful experiences you would like to share. Or perhaps you have just gone through a change in your own business model and have in-house experiences which are sought after from your partner in countries, and you can exchange these staff members for a while. And you do get support to do so, not for free, but substantially subsidized by Norec. So to this day, more than 10,000 people have been on an exchange. 10,000 people exchange by a different country. All these people, be they professional volunteers, are trained prior to departure and not trained prior to the return, as Bonnie mentioned. So training is a crucial and fundamental part of Norec. First and foremost through physical presence in an 8-day-long training, increasingly but surely through digital, as we speak through here. So every week, Norec has more than 200 partners who are involved in exchange. Obviously, right now, the number is of volunteers are fewer. An exchange project covers about 25 countries in Latin America, Asia, and Africa, and by far with a focus on the latter. So our methodology is, in short, sharing knowledge and businesses in different countries through digital and physical exchange. That was brief about our methodology. So my last point is our purpose. For nothing comes without a purpose, doesn't it? The reason why the Norwegian Parliament, the reason why the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Norec do this, it does have purpose. As mentioned earlier, apart from the obvious benefit of the volunteer, the participant on exchange, whom gets her or his time of her life with new friends, connections, challenges, and a CV increase by 100 in a year. Apart from that participant, we, Norec, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs are searching to give support to partnerships which are making international collaboration stronger, which are connecting the world rather than separating it. International partnerships which are strengthening each other rather than making isolation. We believe that our world need to be cared for by different actors in many countries. With that purpose in mind, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Norec, we are looking for businesses and partnerships which are making a difference for the better people, which are looking for supporting companies with bold ideas for a green future. We are looking for and supporting organizations which finds new solutions to old problems, as well known as innovation. And we are supporting businesses lifting human rights and gender equality among their employees. We are looking for international partnerships, working for a sustainable future on the planet to be slightly how we found it. These are the bold headlines for our purpose. So if you are interested and you feel that this is for you, if you could contribute, if you could benefit from an exchange between staff between your company and a partner company in a different country, please get in touch with Norec at norec.no. That's too many X, but never mind. You get in touch with Norec and we will keep in touch. Tormod, back to you.
Thank you very much. I can just mention that in addition to norec.no, it's also possible to reach us through norec.org, and we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we are on Instagram. So now our panelists have told their stories. We'll open up the floor, the chat, for any questions, should you have that. But I think I might try and open the floor still, and maybe get one more example, because when hearing when hearing the story of Bonnie and the We Center, I also know that you want to expand beyond Africa. So Bonnie, can you just kick off and very briefly tell us about what you're trying to do on another continent?
Great. So yeah, we have a similar exchange with the government of Colombia for our non-profit. And part of that exchange, the participants were also, of course, exposed to e-waste recycling while being in Kenya. So we've managed to use the same participants to do a research.
Switch off your screen, sorry. Right, I think we've lost a connection with Bonnie. We do have in our panel, we do have a person who's been part of this exchange program, who was part of the Laboremus exchange, Kenneth Koestler. And so we have a question from one of the viewers. Sorry, there is. We have a question from one of the viewers asking if Kenneth could tell us a little bit about his experience. I don't know, Kenneth, if you would like to do that. Now we can hear you, Bonnie. Now we can hear you. Yes, understand. Anyway, while Bonnie's trying to get back, as we can see on the chat, Kenneth was part of the Norec program. He is now moved on. He's the COO at MCAS Uganda. So we see there are people going places, making use of the experience they got through the program. Maybe I can turn to you again, Marius, and just, if you were to meet other businesses, now you've had a lot of time to explain how you benefited from it, but if you were to boil down what you and Laboremus has gotten out of being part of the Norec program, and if you had like one sentence to say and to use, what would you say then? Why should businesses use the Norec model?
Yeah, boil it down to one sentence, right? Easy.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but
I think maybe the most rewarding thing for us as a company and for individuals is that Norec provides a framework for us on how we build talent in the company in bigger extremes, right? And before you know it, you become much better at developing talent across the organization. Because you're pushed to understand what are the mechanisms of really building talent within. Obviously, if you want to succeed in the current business environment, you have to. I think Bonnie's example with the ISO team and so forth is also a good example of that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for saying that. Timothy, if I give you the same challenge.
You're muted.
Give a perspective. Personally, I don't like working with organizations, you know, non-profits and so on and so forth. That's what was my take on things in the past. So I always this approach or this perception of heavy bureaucracy. This is going to take forever to get it going. So I would approach it with a very skeptical mindset. But we have been through just over 3 rounds with Norec, and the freedom they give you to basically define what your program, or you call it the project, the freedom they give you to be able to have a say in what you want to achieve, outcomes. You define your own goals. They act as facilitators, and you know, it's very common that you engage today, and in 3 months from now you have your exchange is already done. This is unprecedented. So that's why I would basically say, yeah, they changed my perspective on how to work with what I used to refer to as policies and so on.
Jan Olav, if you could spend 1 minute just reflecting a little bit about the same thing that we talked about earlier here with Marius, the fact that we now have to work more digitally. How are you thinking, how is Norec planning to do that for the time to come?
The good thing by working digital is that we are able to engage with more people in the different organizations in the countries. So more people can be internationally engaged where they are having their workplace, not by traveling far away 6 months through the day-to-day work. But the various platforms and how we are going to do this, and whether this will create the same strong international connections as the physical exchange did, this is an unprecedented situation where none of us have ever tried. So the only thing I will inspire to aspire for is that our current partners are coming up with new ideas in sharing experiences through a digital method, and I support Marius, yes, to sustain the physical exchange in the future. So we're going to run both ways of exchanges, a digital one and a physical one.
Thank you very much for that, Jan Olav. I think we are nearing the end of the time allocated for our session. What I can say is that those of you who are interested in Kenneth Koestler's story, maybe you can try and connect with him in one of the networking spaces available for the rest of the day. Also, the story of Mbithi and his company, you can actually read an article about Bonnie on the website of Norec, www.norec.org. And I think that's about it. Panelists, thank you so much for your time. You in the audience, thank you very much for participating, and have a nice day. Thank you.